In this video, I'm going to kind of just be going through the example model text that's going to be giving you some background information on kind of where the KKK or the Ku Klux Klan came from, and answering the question of kind of what motivated them to be created, or why did this even come about. So I'm going to be reading this 2-paragraph text here that's in your Google form, but as always, like you should be doing, I have copied these into a Google Doc here for you, so it's easier to read. You can code and highlight, and there's some vocabulary help here for you. So I'm going to model how I would read this for some background information. So starting with the first paragraph here, the formation of the Ku Klux Klan. I don't know why they decided to name themselves that, but that's their name. The Ku Klux Klan was a collection of local extremist groups, so pretty intense extreme people, loosely affiliated or based around a unity of purpose, which was white supremacy. Again, this racist belief that somehow white people are superior, better than others, a big racist lie, but they believed in it. So according to historian Eric Foner, the Klan during Reconstruction offers the most extensive example of homegrown terrorism in American history. So that's a good quote, showing that they're just a terror group and one of the biggest ones in all of U.S. history. First appearing in Tennessee in 1865, the Klan rose to prominence or popularity during the 1868 presidential election. So I know that's when they were starting, and from my background knowledge, I know that's when Reconstruction was going on. So there must have been something in Reconstruction that motivated them. Klansmen killed thousands of free people. So whoa, they killed thousands of people and Republican supporters across the South, and they injured and threatened scores or many more. They often visited their victims at night, wearing hoods and robes to preserve anonymity, or you don't know who they are because they're wearing a mask, you don't know who the person is, and provoke or cause fear. So in this first paragraph, activating my background knowledge, I know that something during Reconstruction that was going on is that African Americans were gaining more civil rights. We saw things like the 14th Amendment, more people starting to vote. And so what these people are doing, because of their belief in white supremacy, this big giant racist belief, is they've actually started just going and attacking and killing people, mostly in the middle of the night, to try to scare or intimidate them, use terror and violence, like the quote said from that historian. So starting the second paragraph, the effects of Klan violence. Regardless of the factors that fueled Klan violence, such attacks countered or pushed back against the spread of democracy during Radical Reconstruction. So while there was those gains of Radical Reconstruction, this Klan violence actually pushed back against that. In 1868 presidential election, few, if any, votes were cast for the Republican candidate, Ulysses S. Grant, in many heavily Republican southern counties where Klan violence took place. So I'm kind of seeing that the effect of this Klan violence is that even though a lot of African Americans are allowed to vote now, because of this terror and violence, a lot of them are actually not voting, unfortunately, and might have been giving into that fear or intimidation. Grant won the election anyway, and those who did vote Republican, as Abram Colby testifies in a document in this lesson, which you'll read later, often later became Ku Klux Klan victims. So even if you did vote Republican or an African American who just voted at all, you'd often become a target or a victim of this violence of the Klan. The direct effects of violence on the ballot box are clear, but widespread brutality also chipped away at many citizens' confidence in the legitimacy, or like, is this thing actually legit or good, of the Republican-led government. As one victim of the Ku Klux Klan declared, "I consider a government that is not or does not protect its citizens a failure." So kind of bringing it all together, I'm seeing that the reason that these people came together was because of their very strong racist belief in white supremacy. And they were willing to act on that to essentially cause terror and violence against anybody who was pushing back against this view of white supremacy by essentially giving more rights to African Americans and allowing them to vote. So even though the laws said that African Americans could vote, they just straight up used terror and violence to try to stop people and scare them away by threatening them that they'll attack them or kill them if they vote. And we're in this lesson going to see what the impacts of that were. So that's how I would summarize what motivated the Klan to start and what impacts did they have on Reconstruction. So you're going to be doing this on your own, but make sure you can rewatch this video for background knowledge. But we're going to now examine what the effects of this Klan violence in today's lesson.